if you're working on fitting your bodice and the cup size seems right and everything looks like it's fitting, but you just need a little bit more ease through the front or the back, I'm going to show you a new way to do that today. So in front of me, I have a bodice here, and this is a front bodice. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw myself some guidelines. And as always, I want to mark my seam allowances so I can see where my stitching lines are to help me make my guidelines. So I'm literally just going to make some seam allowances here through the armhole and neckline. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw a vertical line that goes from the end of the shoulder seam at the neckline down to the hem like this. Okay, and it's parallel to center front or center back. This can work in both situations. Then I'm going to create some control points. Now you probably have heard me talk about these control points when I do fit adjustments. The purpose of these control points are to control the spread of the pattern, because we know if I cut this slash line and make a pivot at the shoulder, I can make a opening that will add room all the way down to the hem. However, just making this single slash here will create a wedge shape, giving me a little bit of extra ease up at the top and a lot of ease at the hem. And sometimes you need it more throughout the middle of or within the pattern and not down closer to the hem. So I'm going to create 2 perpendicular control points in the armhole area that I can use to control the swing of this vertical line. Now what I'm going to do here is let's just cut this off at center front, because I'm going to use this piece of paper to fill in my, when I spread, I'm going to use this piece of paper to fill it in. Now I'm going to cut on my line, and I'm going to cut straight through the shoulder seam. Okay, and the reason why I'm doing that is because this side of the shoulder is going to lower a little bit, so you really can't do a pivot there. But I am going to create pivots on these 2 control points. Like, oops. Now if that happens, give yourself a piece of Scotch tape where you're going to do your pivots, and that will help strengthen the pivot. So now if I slash 2 there and then I slash on the other side, you can see that gives me a stronger, well, it should give me a stronger pivot here. So, and maybe I'll use my new snips that I got from testing these scissors on Cool Tools yesterday. So I'm just going to use my snips to snip in there to create, here's one pivot, and then let's cut to the stitching line. And then again, I think these snips are going to be my little pivot maker, because this will allow me to get right in there and create a pivot without cutting through with the rotary cutter. All right, so now I have these 2 other horizontal areas that also open and close. So now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my shoulder. I don't want to lengthen my shoulder per se. I just want to lower it so I can spread the top of this pattern the amount that I think I need. So you can see what's happening here is I'm lowering it and I'm pivoting it out like this. Okay, so you can see here I'm giving myself about a generous 1/4 inch of ease extra in the upper chest, high bust area. And this is a tiny little pattern piece, so you'll be able to really add room in a full-size bodice piece. Now, if I had just left the 1 slash, you can see I have this very predictable wedge shape. But let's say we don't want that wedge shape. What I'm going to do is I'm going to allow this lower control point to overlap, and I'm going to swing it back in to create the room where I need it. So notice I've got the room here, okay, and it starts to close back in at the hem. So this is going to give me some nice extra ease through the full bust, through the tummy, and then it's tapering away at the hem if you don't need it there. So now that I've got that into position, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this piece of scrap paper and I'm going to slide it under here. And you may notice I'm using my Sew Tights magnetic cutting board here. I will tell you that I feel like I deserve like a little slap for not using this more often in my tutorials, because it really makes easy work of adjusting the pieces, because the magnets hold down things while I'm adjusting other things. So I'm going to put that paper in there, and then I'm going to reestablish my shape now that I've got approximately what I'm looking for here. These booster magnets do a really good job of holding the areas I don't want to change, and then it allows me to move the parts I do want to change. So basically now you can see I swung this in a little bit. So there's a little bit of an overlap here. There's a little bit of an overlap here. And you can see I did 2 of them so it wouldn't distort my shape of my armhole. If I had just done 1 of these control point slashes, it may have caused a bigger change in the shape of my armhole. I want to make this as easy as possible. So let's say this is my goal. So I've opened it up the amount I need. Now I'm going to take some Scotch tape and I'm going to tape this down. And I'm using my Scotch tape clip-on tape dispenser. I love that thing. You know the reason why I love it is because it's clamped onto the table and I don't pick it up and move it and then lose it. My weighted tape dispensers sometimes get lost in action. Alright, so now I've got this all set, but we have a little bit of more work to do. And what I want to show you here is by collapsing this part of the pattern, we've changed the shoulder a little bit, and I want to put that back. I don't want to change something that's working, because remember I said everything was fitting. The blue zone with the slope of the shoulder, the neckline, everything's working. We just need a little bit more ease here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out like this, right on the line. And I'm going to cut it, just going to cut it right out on all the original lines so you can see what we have here to true up. Okay. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that. Now I've got a second copy of this pattern, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up. I'm going to line it up along the side seam, and I'm going to put some of my booster magnets down here. So you can see what's happened is, see how the shoulder moved in? You would think it moved out because we added ease, but it didn't. It moved in because we literally pushed this down like that, and that's what caused the shift there. You can see that the shoulder is over here, right? And then if I use my ruler to mark, okay, the original shoulder stops right there. This is where the original shoulder stops, right here. So I'm just going to go in and blend that back like this to kind of put that back. All right, so I'm going to trace where the neckline is now, like this, so you can see it first. Okay, and then I'm also going to trace the center front edge. Let me do that. That way I can pick up this adjusted piece to see what the new shape is. I'm just going to straighten this out because Okay, so you can see where we added the extra ease is through here. Okay, so lining it up at the side seam shows us it pushed everything this way, but we do want the shoulder to stay the same length. So what I'm going to have to do is put the shoulder back where it was, put the neckline back where it was, but extend it out that little bit. Okay, so that's what pushing out, you know, and I'm just going to color it in so you can see. So I pushed it out here. Okay, and it created this extra room. Okay, but you can see what it's really doing is it's really pushing this closer to center. So again, if you just need room here, right, you would need a little bit of a bigger space at your neckline, and it just gives you that extra ease all the way down. But again, I'm just putting back the neckline and I'm keeping the shoulder where it was. So now let's just cut this out. I just want to show you that it will be the right shape. If I now cut this out, I'm going to leave the shoulder. I find it really interesting to see where the adjustment shows up after making one internally, because when you make an internal adjustment to your pattern pieces, it's always fun to see where they show up. So now let me put this back on here. And you can see the only thing that we really changed, I'm going to tape them together. Oops. I'm just going to tape them together up here at the shoulder so you can see. Okay, so if I look at it this way, I'll use a different color here. I just put this little wedge back right here. Okay, and then if we turn it over this way, you can see that I took off this to maintain the measurement. So from one side you can see I extended the shoulder back to where it belongs, and then in the back, if I turn it, you can see we trimmed off the little bit of the neckline that pushed closer to center. So this is another thing you can do if you need more room, like from the base of your neck down, but maybe not so much at your hem. And again, you can see you're going to need to make 2 copies of your pattern because you want to be able to put the shoulder back the way it was and sort of reestablish your neckline so it's not changing anything. And the beauty of this is we were able to direct the ease inside the pattern here, and because we drew our vertical line at the intersection of the end of the shoulder seam and the neckline, it doesn't affect the bust dart. So we're not cutting through the bust dart and changing that length. We're just adding a little bit more ease throughout the front. And I just wanted to remind you, you can also use this adjustment for the back of your pattern as well. One other thing, if you do this adjustment and then you realize that you really don't need any extra ease here, you can always go back, measure what you ended up taking out over here, or what you added. So let's say I added, what, that's like an 8/4 inch. I'm just going to mark that here. Okay, and then I could just cut that off to get rid of the extra down at the hem. Okay, so this is really for someone who has a larger torso and smaller hips and upper thighs. A lot of times you need to expand the top of the bodice pattern, either front or back, but you need the hem to stay the same measurement. So again, I could just cut this off right here. right, so that would be getting rid of the amount that I added to the hem. And of course it looks tiny here, but remember I'm working with this little half scale pattern. Let me just cut this off too. All right, so that's another way that you can add internally, either in the front or the back, it doesn't matter. Just make sure to make a copy of your pattern so you can reestablish the original length of your shoulder. So this is just another way that you can add ease through the upper part of the front or back of your pattern. If you have any questions or comments, please post those below and I will help you. I hope you're enjoying Fit Tip Tuesdays. I do want to remind you that I'm having a drawing for 5 Amazon gift cards on Friday during FabFit Friday to thank you for helping me reach the milestone of 50,000 subscribers here on my channel on YouTube. I really, really appreciate each and every one of you who watches and follows along with me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll put the link in the description below to that video if you want to just click on it and add a comment, because that's how you're entered to win. And then if you join my Discord, there's a second chance drawing for more gift cards. So if you head over, check out FabFit Friday, post a comment, you have a chance to win $100, $50, or a $25 Amazon gift card, which will come in handy if you have some cool tools on your list. And then click the invitation link to my Discord and join that as well, because you'll have a second chance to win a $50 or $25 Amazon gift card. And just in case you're wondering, I'm going to be jazzing up my Discord with a fit Q&A every month starting in September, and that's just going to be for Discord members. So I'm going to start to do more with my Discord. I like it because there's no algorithm to control what you can see. You can post your questions and I can answer your questions, and we can both be sure that you'll see that I'll see your question and you'll see my answer without worrying about the algorithm and how it's sharing, what we post. Another feature that's very cool in there, and I forgot to mention it on my other videos, is that I'm going to have private classrooms on my Discord. So if you take a class from me, I'm setting those up so then you can go in there afterward and continue to ask me questions and interact with the other students, which I think is super helpful, because sometimes I'm answering questions and it occurred to me that I might be answering a question for one student individually when someone else in the class may be wondering the same thing. So having these private classrooms that are only available to students who sign up for my classes is going to be super helpful as well. So I hope you enjoyed this little fit tip. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.